All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to walk through a couple problems here using Ohm's law. Just as a reminder, um, Ohm's law is voltage is equal to current multiplied by resistance. I just talked about voltage, current, and resistance in my previous video, so I'm not going to go over those right now. Oh, look, there it is right there, V equals IR. With every single one of these problems, what you're going to want to do is just be able to identify your variables. And the easiest way to do that is by looking at the units, okay, and knowing how the units relate to one another. Um, Voltage is a pretty easy one. Voltage, or V, we measure in volts. And then current is kind of the tough one, because here's the problem with current. You have current, the word current, which starts with a C, and then you have the variable, which is represented with an I, and then you have the unit, which we measure in amps. Okay, so that's kind of a tough one. The only trick I can tell you for that one, to kind of maybe help you remember a little bit, is I always use the acronym CIA. Okay, current is a member of the CIA. Current, I is the variable, and then A is amps, CIA. All right, and then finally we have resistance. So we have resistance, and that one is with an R. All right, so that's pretty simple. But then we have something called ohms that we measure resistance in, or you'll see this symbol here, which is Greek letter omega. Okay, now if you can get this stuff down right here, if you can understand these and being able to look at a problem and identify which variable it is that you're working with, it's going to make these problems 100 times easier. And then the only thing left to do is would be to actually figure out which equation you need to use. And in order to do that, I would suggest using your T-chart to help you out with that, where you have V on the top, I on the bottom, and R on the bottom. For those of you who have not used a T-chart before, maybe you haven't used it in a previous class, the way this T-chart works is you have, here I'll use a different color. If I say that this top line, I'm going to make it a red line. All right, this top line is going to be my division line. And then the middle line, or this vertical line, that's going to be my multiplication line. All right, and whichever variable I want to solve for, I just use the other two, and I do whatever it is that the line they're separated by. I'll show you what I mean here. So if I am solving for voltage, well, voltage is separated by which line? Or sorry, in order to solve for voltage, we have to use current and resistance. And current and resistance are separated by that multiplication line in the middle. So we have to multiply the two. All right, now let's say I wanted to solve for current. All right, well, if I want to solve for current, in order to solve for current, we need to use voltage and resistance. Voltage and resistance are separated by this division line here. So in order to solve for current, I'm going to take voltage and resistance. And you might ask, well, which way do I have to divide them? V divided by R divided by V. Well, that's the reason that the V, or the voltage, is on top, because that's going to go in your numerator. So resistance is on the bottom. And then the last one would be resistance then. Solving for resistance, you're using that division line again. So we need to use V and I, once again, because V is on the top, We will put it on the top in the numerator, and then I will go on the bottom. Okay, so just kind of a little bit of insight to if you're struggling figuring out that equation, and then we'll walk through a couple problems here. All right, so let's take a look at number 2. Okay, what voltage is required to move 4A, remember A is amps, through 20 ohms? Okay, well, identify your variables. 4 amps, that's going to be my current. Remember, if you have a hard time remembering that, remember current is CIA. All right, so since we have 4 amps, we're going to plug that into I through 20 ohms. That is my resistance. All right, voltage is what I don't know. Write the equation. V equals IR. And now you need to substitute variables into the equation. So I'll have V equals 4 amps times 20 ohms. Plug that into your calculator. And you should end up getting voltage is equal to 80 volts. Okay, let's move on to a second problem here. Okay, let's solve for current. What is the current in a 120 volt circuit? Sorry, I'm looking at number 4, by the way. What is the current in a 120 volt circuit if the resistance is 20 ohms? Well, identify your variables. I have 120 volts. It's going to go under voltage. And I have a resistance, 20 ohms. That's going to go there. The equation I'm going to need is solving for I, because that's what I don't know. And remember, using your T-chart, V, I, R. If I'm solving for I need to take V divided by R. So we're going to substitute those variables in. V is 120 divided by 20 ohms. So you solve for that, and you should end up getting 60 amps. All right, last one, we'll solve for a resistance problem. All right, so looking at number 6 here then. What is the resistance of a circuit? What is the resistance of a circuit is required? It's great grammar there. What is the resistance of a circuit required with 120 volts and 15 amps? All right, we don't have to worry about the grammar so much. We just care about numbers here in science, right? So we have voltage is 120. And we have 15 amps, which is going to be your current. And we need to solve for resistance. So resistance, go back to that G-chart, VIR, V divided by I. I'm going to be solving for resistance. Substitute in all of our numbers. We have 120 volts divided by 15 amps. And then you can go ahead and solve for that, and you should end up getting 8 ohms. Okay, please let me know if you have any questions or need any clarification. Have a great day, guys.